This week, we are talking about everyone's favorite topic.
It should be everyone's favorite topic.
Should be everyone's favorite topic.
For the Christian is like, this is primo. I think in a lot of ways, self-control is the thing that separates a true, like, convicted, like, born-again, Holy Spirit indwelt Christian against, like, non-believers. You know what I mean? Because it's like, before I know I was born again, self-control was essentially non-existent. Like, self-control is not really a virtue, in as much as, like, you know, the really bad stuff, you know, like, oh, well, I'm gonna, like, have self-control in as much as I don't, you know, do crack. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's kind of like, I think, the world's version of self-control. But the problem with that, though, is that you basically get to make the rules. You know what I mean? And you get to decide, like, what your version of self-control is, and not following, like, objective self-control, but more so just, like, for me, I think this would be too far. So as long as I am abiding by my own kind of standards of self-control,
Like, it's your truth.
yeah,
kind of a thing.
then it's all good.
That makes
You know what I
sense.
mean? Which is the funny thing too, is that most people, if they're being honest with themselves, probably don't even hold to their own standard of self-control.
That's fair.
Self-control is something that you practice. Like, it's not just something that you magically just, like, snap your fingers and then now you just have self-control. And it's just a matter of like, oh, well, I'm just going to try really, really hard and then I won't, you know, push the boundaries on my sin or whatever, you know?
Like, it's not just willpower.
Right. And I think the phrase practice, I think, implies the sense of repetition over time, you know? And I think the more that you practice something, the better you get at it.
Sure.
You know?
Absolutely.
If you are even a little bit lenient some of the time, then the other times when you go to try and avoid that thing, it's going to be exponentially tougher for you, right? So if, like, let's say one time you're like, oh, you know what, like, I've been good this week. I think I'll have a few extra drinks this weekend.
Yeah.
Right. It's because last week I showed a lot of self-control. So I'm gonna splurge a little bit this week, right? So it's like you're actively not practicing, and so it's almost like you are conditioning yourself to do bad because you're rewarding yourself with bad behavior. We want to have self-control and avoid sin just because it is honoring to our Father.
Right. Because we're being obedient.
Right. But on a very practical level, having self-control is actually just better for you flourishing in your life.
That's a great point.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, even if you aren't a Christian, if you are a person who is generally more self-controlled,
Yeah.
you're going to live a better life
Yeah.
than someone who shows no self-control.
Yeah.
You know, like, if you just say yes to every single carnal desire that comes your way, I mean,
That sounds miserable.
that is how people's lives get ruined.
Yeah. It could even be like your emotions. You know what I mean? Like giving in to, like,
Sure.
I don't know, maybe I'm unmotivated to go to work or something. And so I'm going to lean into that instead of being like, you know what?
Sure.
No, like, the Lord's given me this job, and so I'm going to do it unto him.
Or anger.
Anger, absolutely.
Yeah,
Like,
like-
I am justified.
Yeah, I know because there is always a very temporary feeling of satisfaction, like when you're able to, you know, give someone a piece of your mind.
Yeah.
You know, or like someone did something to you, and so out of pettiness and spite, you do the exact same thing back to them whenever you get the immediate opportunity to, right? And there is that part of you that immediately feels like, yeah, like,
Yeah.
got him, you know?
Yeah.
But then where does that leave you?
Yeah.
It leaves you with absolutely nothing.
Or,
Yeah.
like, I know there's been times when I've been, like, sad or something. Staying in, like, emotions and ruling or letting them rule our lives,
Yep.
like with sadness, you know what I mean? I know I have been sad before, and I have sat in that because it feels good,
Oh, 100%.
you know?
100 billion trillion
If-
trillion percent.
It feels good to walk around and hope that other people notice that I'm sad so that they can say, hey, what's wrong, you know?
Yeah. And even deeper than that too is sometimes we get into this feeling of like identifying ourselves with our sin, with our struggle, right?
on.
And so it's like,
I
oh,
felt that.
like I struggle with anxiety, or I
Yeah.
struggle with depression, or I
Yep.
struggle with porn, or I struggle with drinking, or
Yeah.
I struggle with, right? And then Christians
Mm-hmm.
kind of like, they're too almost too eager to just adopt this thorn in their side.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
To be like, oh, well, this is just my thing. Like, this is, I'm the
Yeah.
Christian who struggles with,
Yep.
with blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
When it's like, no, like you may struggle with that, but that's not your identity.
That's good.
That's not your identity.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm not the anxious Christian. I'm not the depressed Christian. Like
Right.
you're just a Christian, you know, and you, sure, we
You
struggle
have battles with
we
these
struggle
things.
with things like, but we don't sit there. Hey guys, if you like this video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Check out the full podcast that these clips were taken from. I'm going to put the link down in the description below. Thank you guys for watching. God bless.